I think we have a technical problem with the video, so we'll get started with the session. Good afternoon, everyone. So I hope you had a wonderful lunch. And for this session, I'm Tenzin Sonam. I'm an assistant research scientist at Emory Compassion Center, and I work for the Sea Learning program. And we have a separate research unit started within the center led by Dr. Rob Roser. So I'm part of the research team as well as the Sea Learning team. And I also take part in the ETSI program, so I co-lead the ETSI pedagogy unit. So I welcome everyone for this session. So in this session explores the ongoing impact and future sustainability of the Emory-Tibet Science Initiative in advancing science education within the Tibetan Monastic Institution. Rooted in His Holiness the Dalai Lama's long-standing vision for dialogue between Buddhist contemplative traditions and modern scientific inquiry, ETSI has created transformative opportunities for monastic scholars to engage deeply with contemporary science while preserving the richness of the Nalanda tradition. So let me introduce a wonderful set of monastic presenters and one of our ETSI faculty who will share their stories on the development of science curricula within the monastic setting, the experience of monastic science educators, and the broader significance of integrating contemplative knowledge with scientific learning. So for the first speaker, we have Kachin Rizin Nobu. He's a science teacher and director of Science Center at Tashulimbu Monastery. He's originally from Nubra Valley in Ladakh. He joined the monastery in 1997 and completed a 17-year course of Buddhist studies in 2016. He later earned the Kachin degree and is currently pursuing Geshe Haramba degree. And he's selected as Tenzin Gyatso Scholar for 2017, where he completed 2 years of residency at Emory, and he's currently enrolled in the ETSI specialization phase. And next, we have Venerable Tenzin Choyang. Venerable Tenzin Choyang is a science teacher and also a Tenzin Gyatso Science Scholar from Cheongjuk Choling Nanri. After completing the Tenzin Gyatso Scholars Program, she undertook a research internship at Northwestern University in human emotions, neuroanatomy, and research methodology. She completed the ETSI Sustainability Program in 2025 and currently enrolled in the specialization program. And then we have Venerable Tenzin Rabka, who is a science teacher and a former director of the Science Center for Jebung Gomang Monastery. After completing his 16 years of monastic studies, he joined the 6th cohort of Tenzin Gyatso Scholars Program and studied at Emory University for 2 years. He's currently enrolled in the ETSI Sustainability Program. And we have last monastic, Venerable Lobsang Tundup. Venerable Lobsang Tundup is also a Tenzin Gyatso scholar and a science instructor at Ganden Sharze Monastery. After completing a 2-year science studies program at Emory in 2021, he returned to the monastery where he continues to teach science while pursuing advanced Buddhist studies through the Gelug board examination system. In 2025, he completed the ETSI Sustainability Program and focusing on science pedagogy and contemplative research. And the last speaker, we have Dr. Nicole Gerato. Dr. Nicole Gerato serves as director of Emory University's Graduate Division of Biological and Biomedical Sciences and professor of biology at the Emory College of Arts and Sciences. Her research examines how ecological and evolutionary dynamics shape the relationship between host and microbes. She has been affiliated with Emory-Tibet Science Initiative since 2017, when she taught the introductory biology as part of the monastic science curriculum. She currently serves as the co-leader of the ETSI Research Training Program. I now welcome Kachin Rizin Norbula.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to pay my deepest respect to His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, the great compassion Buddha of 21st century. Most respected Khenrim Bochela and Geshe, venerable monks and nuns, respected professors, distinguished guests, and my dear friend. Today I would like to share impact story of modern education in monastery education curriculum from 2004 to 2026 at Tashulimbu Monastery, where I belong to. This is not a this is not a story about science classes. It is a story about curiosity, critical thinking, dialogue, and transformation in monastic education. His Holiness always encouraged the connection between Buddhism and science. He often says that if scientific evidence proves something differently, Buddhists should be open to accepting scientific truth. Because of this open-minded vision, science education became one of the most important changes in Tibetan monastic education, mostly in Gelug tradition. His Holiness wanted monasteries not only preserve Buddhist teaching, but also to help monks and nuns understand the modern world while keeping strong Buddhist values and philosophy. For me personally, this journey began when I was young monk student. I started learning science in 2004 during my Pranjaparamita class, year 1, with our senior monk. I'm very thankful to my mentor who encouraged me to study science while I was still a freshman philosophy student. At that time, science felt completely new to me. Words like atom, neuron, gravity, evolution, and the Big Bang theory sounds very different from traditional Buddhist philosophy. But slowly I realized that science was not against Buddhism. Instead, it helped deepen understanding. For example, when learning about atom and constant changes inside matter, I tried to understand the concept of impermanence mentioned in Buddhist teaching. Over the years, I saw monks more curious, analytical, and confident in engaging with modern science. Today, science is no longer seen as something unfamiliar in monasteries. It has become part of monastery education. Science education at Tashilumpu Monastery began through programs such like Science Meet Dharma in 2004. The Science Meet Dharma program was supported by Tibet Institute, Recon, Switzerland, and continued until around 2011 at the monastery. At that time, science education in monastery was still very new. Many monks had never seen laboratory equipment or studied biology, physics before. Only a few selected monks had opportunity to study or attend science workshop and science pilot program in Dharamsala outside the monastery campus. In the beginning, in our class, we learned basic science topics such like solar system, human biology, matter and atom, energy and motion, and Big Bang theory. But the real impact was much deeper than learning scientific fact. Science introduced observation, experimentation, and evidence-based thinking. As a monk trained in Buddhist logic and debate, we found strong connection between science and Buddhism. Both encouraged questioning, investigation, and understanding the reality. Slowly, curiosity began to grow inside monastic classroom. A major transformation came with the Emory-Tibet Science Initiative, also known as ETSI. The implementation phase began in 2004 in a major monastery university, Serra Debu Galden. This became one of the largest science education projects in Tibetan monastic history. Monks began study subjects like biology, physics, neuroscience, and philosophy of science. We learned about evolution, Newton's law, genetics, the nervous system, and so on. I had opportunity to study science during ETSI implementation phase in 2014 at Sera Monastery and later at Emory University from 2017 to 2019 as a Tenzin Gyatso science scholar. That experience expanded my understanding of science and education. I saw how universities teach through research, experiment, case study, and discussion. I also realized that monastic education already has strong analytical tradition that work very well with science. Today, ETSI has sustainability phase and specialization phase, helping science education continue to grow in monasteries beyond 2020s. Over the last 2 decades, the impact science education in monastery has become very clear. One major achievement is that monks can now confidently debate scientific topics in public. For example, last December at Dibung Monastery, ETSI monastic scholar present science debate in presence of His Holiness. It was a historic moment that shows how far monastic science education has progressed. Another important achievement is that since 2024, monastic scholars designed their research poster in Tibetan. If I am not wrong, this may be the first time in our community as a historic achievement. And also the present here in library May 2024. Since 2018, science has also become a compulsory subject in Gelugpa Geshe examination. This has created a major impact on monastic education curriculum. Another important development is the scientific writing and publication. Nowadays, many monks write scientific article and research paper. The Science Center at Tashilingpo Monastery also published its first triennial science journal, encouraging monks to do research and explain scientific idea more clearly. Today, our monks actively participate in scientific conference, ETSI research, ETSI translation program, Thuktam research program, Radon research collaboration with Sonolab. As a researcher since 2019, I have personally observed how collaboration between monks and scientists create mutual respect and learning. Science education has strengthened many important skills among monastery: critical thinking, analytical reasoning, public speaking, communication skills, and research methods. Most importantly, science education has helped younger monks gain confidence in discussing global issues such like climate change, mental health, and environmental sustainability, and so on. At the same time, monasteries continue to preserve Buddhist values of compassion, ethics, and wisdom. This balance between traditional wisdom and modern knowledge may be the greatest achievement of the entire journey in the community. As I conclude, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to His Holiness Dalai Lama, whose vision made this educational transformation possible. From 2004 to 2026, science education has grown from small experimental program into an important monastic learning. I would like to conclude with 2 inspirational quotes, one from His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama and one from the 10th Panchen Lama. The both Gyawabse mentioned that monastics should study modern science for others' benefit. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Hello. A little bit nervous. Good afternoon to all of you. And I feel so grateful to be here to learn more, and especially, to see many of the faces we already have seen in the past, conferences. And also many new faces. Is a great opportunity to meet, new people and make new friends and new connection. So, yes, so we are talking here about the impact of the learning science. So, first of all, I really wanted to ask you all, and put your hand on your chest. And please, remind how lucky we are here, to have this really great opportunity to explore more about compassion and then ethics in science. Yes, so the question is, if you had, entered a Tibetan Buddhist nunnery and 15 years ago, and then whispered the word science to a nun's ear, what do you think their picture of science? So I can tell you honestly, actually I don't, can generalize what nuns thought or, perception about science. But I do, I can tell you many nuns, when they hear the word of science, they barely thought really like purely, mechanical. That we see the car, rushing down to the road, and the computer sitting on the table, and aeroplane, cutting the sky. And worstly, if we reflect in the bad moment, it's just the creator of a weapon, like a bomb. But today, if you enter the same nunnery and ask to someone, some nun, and what is science, then I can, 100% sure they have different meaning of science. So this is, for example, it's these days we do see that science is a profound method. It's a systematic way to study the world, the reality of the world, around us. Also, that most greatly the science teach us how to use the material things for human need. So this is this shift, in perception, in our perception. I think that ultimately the bridge to gap, to fill the gap between Buddhism and science. So this sparking very deep and genuine interest into science arising in the monastery and especially in the nunnery. So this kind of, shift and transformation, what I am thinking is the greatest impact of learning science. Because this interest brought us, more opportunity. Join to whenever there's an opportunity, it's easy to accept. in the habit to put our name into the head. Before 2016 is really different. Many of us know that if there's like opportunity, most of us are refusing. No, I don't want to join. So Naneri have to force us to go there. But today, many of us, many nuns are waiting opportunity for science. So that is the biggest, I can see the biggest impact of learning science in the monastic culture. So because of that interest, because of this interest, we are joining to a many programs, and it's also build our communication skills. Not only knowing the science, building the communication skills and the building more connection with the world. And that brought us lots of opportunity too. And because all these communication skills and competence, to building with the learning science, also today we have monastic. So if you have, heard from the Kachin Rinzin, how many monastic are doing research and how many monastic are leading the science center in the monastery. And the monastic are teaching the modern science. So all this, achievement and development and process came through the genuine interest into science. And so this transformation not, have happened overnight. And it certainly do not have happened, through magic. It came through with years of dedicated effort and patience and vision of His Holiness. This we call today, 100 years project. So through this opportunity, and especially all this patience and vision, and most importantly, the systematic initiative teaching to the student for monks and nuns. So this systematic initiative program, provided in the past many years through Science of the Monks, program through Library and Archive, and EDSI, and through Geshe-la's initiative. So I really like to, hold this opportunity and pay my deepest gratitude to all of these organizations and teachers and donors and supporters to make this program, available for monks and nuns. Thank you so much.
아니 도마다 드린데 제도 집중 때문에 기름 제베 기실라다 소자와 용라야 아니 도마다
Happy greetings to Kenruchi, Geshe-la, and all the members gathered here. As a monastic student, I will reflect on how learning science impacted my life and education. Initially, when I was in monastery, I see science education as not that important. However, in 2018, through Emory-Tibet Science Initiative, I participated the science workshops. Through this opportunity, my perception or my view of the science changed. During the time in the science classes, we biology, neuroscience, and physics. These topics are taught in the class. Also, a philosophy of science is taught as well. I will take some examples to show you some effect that I have. In the biology, the teacher's talking about cell is the building block of life, and it talks about genes and the DNA. Through this understanding of every living beings have a DNA or cells, this depends my sense of understanding of common humanity or interdependence nature of a sense. Also, one of the great says we have this common as commonality. So this understanding in the biology helped me to understand the Buddhism better. In the physics, it says about the atom is the building block of matters, and it is changing. And because of the features of the atom, in Buddhism we said impermanence, or it changing every moment. The changing thing or the changing thing or the feature mentioned in the physics helped me understanding the impermanence or dependent origination. So Buddhism, this kind of like impermanence or dependent origination, down through mental investigation, but these things are down through the science using technologies. Also in neuroscience, in the system of vision, how we see things, so how the information through information of the outside world go through our eye, and then this processed in our brain. So I think this kind of especially how vision perceptions processed in the brain, these things can be added to Buddhism as well. So when I read Buddhist texts, I didn't see many things about how visual perceptions are processed. I think these things, scientific explanation about perception or vision processes can be added to Buddhism as well. Also, while I was reading, when I learned science about specific things, also I was wondering how this is explained in Buddhism. So I was really interested in learning in the two disciplines. So also one of the His Holiness book, The Beyond Religion, is mentioned that if we contemplate on the positive emotions, it says there is a change in the I think we need to read carefully from the both traditions to have a great understanding. These are some of the personal transformations. Also, the other thing is the influence on the Tibetan language. If the richness of language, or if the language is valuable, or is depend on how the language is being used and how rich the language is. William James is a psychologist. He said that in the scientific knowledge, there is they recognize the importance of mindfulness and also love of compassion, but there is a lack of understanding how and why this can be improved. If there is a language that can be used to improve this, that language is a really successful and a very useful language. So, for in the case of Tibetan language, in the 12th, 11th century, Buddhism is translated into Tibetan. So, because of that, the rich psychological text is available in Tibetan. That's why Tibetan language itself is preserved and studied for many centuries. At the moment, Tibetan language, due to political language, it is declining, or there's worry about its declination. Also, there is less or limited usage of Tibetan language. On the other hand, Tibetan language, at the moment, we are importing scientific knowledge into Tibetan. This makes Tibetan more relevant in today's world. So Emory-Tibet Science Initiative has translated many textbooks and other scientific materials and research papers. They have many scientific related materials, and lexicons of vocabularies are translated into Tibetan. And due to this import of science into Tibetan, the language is become more relevant and can sustain or can be alive for many years to go. So, also learning science can help preserve Tibetan language, and all of this are due to the great vision of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Geshe-la and other people who have worked hardly on this project. Now I would like to express my greatest, deepest gratitude. And finally, I wish a long life His Holiness. Also, may His Holiness can return to Tibet, and may we have this kind of opportunity in Tibet as well. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Hello. Can you hear me? Great. Okay, so before I start anything, I just wanted to ask you, do you see anything different with me? Is there any difference? Do you see any changes? No? Actually, no, I changed all my dress. I changed my clothes from yesterday. So I think, it's like an impermanence, right? Even though we change, we don't notice it ourselves. And to add to the humor, actually, I changed my clothes for the purpose of saying this joke. Okay, So my name is Tenzin Rabga, and I'm from Debugumang Monastery. And this is my impact story. So a story of how science impacted me and my universe. I said my universe because I may not be in the center of the universe, but I'm definitely in the center of my universe, right? And just like you all are in the center of your universe, right? So my first interaction with science was when I was in the school, in my lower TCV. Is anyone who's from TCV? No? Great. So from a lower TCV school, and then when I joined the lower TCV school in 1992 until 2003. So at that school, I learned about science at that time, and I loved like chemistry, and especially I loved about animals. So it's like all those wonderful, like all those different ways they react to the environment, right? So I also have a story. Like I think it was around I was around 8th grade when I gave a presentation about camouflage, and I concluded by saying that unless we don't harm them, animals don't attack us because they wanted to. They just attack us because they're scared. So unless we don't harm them, they won't attack us or things like that. And after the talk and during the school break, during the class break, and I went out and I saw a wasp lying on its back in a drainage. So I picked it up. No, I didn't want to harm them, right? I wanted to save his life. So I picked it up, and then it bit me and then flew away. So I returned back to my class with all my hands swollen, and my classmate would say, so now you have definitely harmed the animal. So these are the stories of my interaction with science at the school. And after that, and also one big impact on me by science is this is the collection of these books. Does anyone know about this collection of books? Horrible Science, right? It's actually from, I think it's from UK, right? So it's a collection of books on different topics of scientific matters. So I love reading all those books. So when I went to the monastery, I joined the monastery, I bought another box of books. It's the same book, but I just wanted to keep it as a memory. This is what impacted me to get interested in science. So I just wanted to show this book And then when I joined the monastery, so this is also another funny story. Does anyone know this movie? Right? So do you know the character of this main protagonist? Little bit highly intelligent, right? Highly genius because of some help from an alien, but still very, very childish, right? So this movie was released when I joined the same year I joined the monastery in 2003. So probably they saw a resemblance of me with that main protagonist, like some sort of a crazy person. I don't know. So when I joined the monastery, I was given a nickname, and they called me scientist. So I was a scientist in name, but when I first joined the monastery, and probably it can also be a prediction of what will happen in maybe 20 years later with all the interaction with great scientists, right? So this is one thing that happened. And then from 2001 to 21 to 23, I joined Emory University. And this is a photo of Miguel, our biology teacher, when I was at Emory. So he was enjoying us suffering through the exam, and he took the photo. So this is us taking the exam with the Emory students. So those 2 years also impacted me hugely on science, right? And then after returning back from Emory University, I started teaching science, and also teaching is the best form of learning, right? So that helped me also go through my journey through science, and I still keep in contact with my professors at Emory. Sometimes I annoy them with asking lots of questions, like, today I know when I was teaching such and such, they asked me such and such questions to which I don't have any answer. What is the answer? And all the time they were really very happy to help me. So that's my journey through science. And now the impact within the monastic community, I don't want to take a lot of time in that because Kachin Riznu has already explained it very beautifully earlier. So these are some of the ways that we take science seriously. So we take the written exam, we take the oral exam in the monastery. And another important aspect is from 2017, in our monastery, we made it a formal included in the formal education of the monastery, formally, even though science is being taught decades earlier, but in different aspects, in different ways. But formally, it was included in our monastic educational syllabus. And then we also made a rule that anyone who does not complete the science, like our classes of science, are not allowed to participate in the Geshe exam. So anyone who wants to participate in the Geshe exam must go through our science classes. So, and this was written in the rule. And also, I like to tell stories. So after returning back from our monastery, from Emory, I noticed that some of the students, some of the monks, are not coming in the class. And then I went to our monastic abbot. At that time, he was fairly new. So I went to him and I told him, okay, some of the monks are not coming to the class, and still, you are giving him. I didn't say directly, because he is an abbot, and I tried to use some sort of beautiful words, but sorry. So what happened is I told him that there is a rule, and there's a rule, and then we have to follow through the rules. So otherwise, it won't be sustained. So he said, if there's a rule, then we must apply it. So he announced it to the monastery at that time, and the following year, he applied the rule. And that year, 18 monks are not allowed to take the exam, like the Geshe exam, because they were not going to the classes. So this is how, I just wanted to tell the story because this is how seriously our monastery takes, for teaching science in the monastic community. Right? And then it's not just the classes, but also the exhibitions that we take, and also many conferences and things like that. And this is the Facebook site of our Debungoma Monastery Science Center, just so you know that many of our activities, daily activities, many of our different classes, of any other events that we hold, are all posted in this Facebook site, so that you can keep knowing that such and such things are happening. Okay, and then one thing that I'm really proud to say is that one of the main objectives of EDSI is for the monastic themselves to be self-sustaining, right? To be able to self-sustain. So for that, EDSI have started implementing the first the implementation phase, and then the sustainability phase, and then the specialization phase, right? So this year, when I resigned from my duty as administration, as a teacher in the Monastic Science Center, I was very happy and proud to pass on the baton to the monastics of those who are participating in the sustainable, what's that called? Specialization phase, right? So if it is not that hard, can the specialization phase monastic please stand up from our monastery? Just so you know that, Okay. So what I am really happy is that, we are still continuing passing on the baton. So they are now taking the responsibility to continue, and then maybe pass the baton to another group of monks who can still, keep on sustaining the education. And finally, I just wanted to, for 1 or 2 minutes, otherwise, Gentadu Amol is showing me 1 minute, a time up. So I just wanted to end on how science impacted me as an individual, right? Because, as Dr. Eisen has mentioned before, and as Robin has also mentioned before, for me, studied science, and also am interested in science because it helped me study Buddhism better. And I wanted to show 3 examples. First one is evolution. Evolution for me is a very good example of interdependence. all the animals that are evolved, because it evolved because of like interdependence to the environment, and also the environment of that habitat is because of the actions of the animals that are there, right? So it's all interdependent is very much shown as an example in there. Another one, I love this example of colors as an emptiness. Because what we see as a blue color, like if we look at the flower or leaf, when we see is as a green or as a violet, it's not inherently green or violet, right? It's because of multiple causes, like the cells, the photoreceptors in our eyes, or what sort of like a reflection it is being done by the leaves, right? So these sort of, okay, so let's just ask a question to ourselves. We look at the leaf outside, we see it as a green, but is it really green or not? It may be green to us, but then it is also a different color to a different observer, right? So the reality of the color of the leaf is not existed on the leaf itself, but mostly on the observer, combined with the other aspects, other causes. So the color for me is a very beautiful example of showing about the inherent, that nothing exists inherently. So it tells me about emptiness. And then one of my favorite is the human microbiome as a selflessness of individual, right? Selflessness of a person. Because are we really an individual, or are we an ecosystem of microbiome, like lots of bacteria and other small micro animals? Or is it really me, or is it a we? Because we cannot survive without the microbes within us, and our microbes within us cannot survive without us as an individual, right? So it's more like depending on each other for our own survival. So is it really me, or is it we? Or if it's still me, is it a me as an individual, or is it a me as an ecosystem, right? So for me, those are some of the examples that I can take from studying science to getting better understanding on Buddhism. So finally, I don't want to take much time. So finally, to conclude, so this is my story on how science in general and ETSI in particular has impacted me and my universe. It may not have impacted to all the other people. Oh, sorry. Oh, no. Yep. So I have some other stories, but I can tell it to you in other breaks. I don't want to take much time. So in the end, it may not have impacted all the monks in the monasteries, but it had definitely impacted a large number of monastics, especially to my own hope. It has impacted many of the teachers, the spiritual teachers in the monastery, because they are the actual influencers to the next generation of the monastics. So they have shown huge interest on the science, and they also ask lots of questions to the science, like to our emerald professors and professors from other universities when during our summer or winter program. Like many of you might know that. So and that is also a big hope for me. And then as Geshe Negila and Gensundul have said repeatedly, find your own starfish. For me, what I just wanted to urge you is find your own way to impact your universe. For you, after all, you may not be in the center of the universe, but you are definitely in the center of your universe, and it's up to you to impact how you change your universe. So hopefully for the better. Thank you very much.
I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. Tashi Delay. So I am here to tell you sort of the impact of ETSI on the teachers. And so anybody who has taught a science class to monks or nuns, can you please stand up? That would include the monks or nuns who have taught science. So we all have a story. I mean, I think that's just part of human nature, right? We all have a story. But what I want to do is really just tell you a little bit about how this has impacted me, but I think it's probably will resonate with many of the people who just stood up. So I'm going to tell this story in just like a couple of points, a couple of sentences of what I really see has been the impact for me. And it starts at Emory University, which is where I'm a faculty member. I went to Emory University like most assistant professors. I needed to start a research lab. I needed to get grants. I needed to write papers. I needed to train students. And I needed to teach. I was expected to do those with excellence. Like that was the goal. That, as an assistant professor, you were like targeted in. It's pretty clear what you need to do. But this other thing was happening around me. And I could see it, and the Dalai Lama was coming to Emory. That seemed sort of interesting. And I now actually have the great fortune of my office is just a couple doors down from Ari Eisen, who has told us a little bit of that story of sort of starting this collaboration. And at some point, I told Ari, like, this sounds really interesting. Like, I would love to do it. Like, I knew in here this is something that I needed to do, which probably resonates with a lot of you. I had 2 little kids. I needed to get grants, write papers, teach classes, run my research lab. But, this program was building and building, and they needed more faculty. So it's a 6-year curriculum that was starting to spread at lots of monasteries. And so suddenly, they needed more faculty, and my kids were getting a little bit bigger. And they're pretty big now. They're actually both in the audience here, so. And so one day, Ari, who many of the monks and nuns would tell you is a man of few words, knocked on my door, and all he said is, "Are you ready?" That's all he said. No context, very Ari. And I said yes. I knew exactly what he was talking about. And so I had the privilege, and it is a privilege, to go teach introductory biology at the Sarah monasteries in 2017. And so the first lesson that comes from that is to teach with a sense of place. Teaching in ETSI has fundamentally changed me as a teacher, whether I'm in a classroom in Atlanta, or maybe I'm doing outreach K through 12, that you need to understand that sense of place. And I learned that in part because ETSI has always used a co-teaching model of 4 people originally, 2 translators, which meant ETSI had to make sure that all of these monks and nuns eventually were learning English so they could help translate the classes, and then 2 faculty at that time, mainly from the United States. And I taught with Meena Balgopal, who is the best teacher I've ever met. And we stayed up so late at night. We were teaching intro bio, but she was determined. Every example we would use would be set based on organisms in India or Tibet, and we're like trying to find all these papers about tiger genetics and like figure it all out. But I learned so much about bringing in that sense of place into the classroom. I also learned about the importance of the sense of place from the fact this is happening at the monasteries. It's a place of scholarship. And you wake up in the morning and you hear people trying to recite text to memorize it. You see the little kids walking off to school. You end the day with the monks and nuns doing debate. All throughout the day, there's just scholarship happening around you, which leads to funny things in a classroom. So many of you are educators, and if you teach like the little kids, right, and you say like, any questions? And they're all like this, and some of those questions are relevant. And then sometimes, at some point, that goes away. I don't think the curiosity goes away, the willingness to ask the questions, because you might get it wrong. But in the monastic community, they're getting things wrong all the time. They are constantly trying to push each other to new knowledge and to new understanding. So if you ask, do you have any questions in an introductory biology class, especially when you're teaching with Meena, all the hands go up. And you're immediately like, oh my gosh, we do not have enough time for this. But you do your best you can because you're just in this place that's inherently about curiosity, about the world around you, whether it's your inner world or your outer world, right? And that is such a joy. And I still try to just like remember that joy when I'm in a classroom, even with I'm with Emory students and they're really tired and it's almost exams, to remember that that's what they're there, that that joy's still in them. Maybe it just gets lost a little bit, but how can we find it again? So my next lesson is I know very little about neuroscience, and that is okay. And that's because of this co-teaching model. So I'm now fortunate to co-lead the research training program for the monastic scientists with Robin, who you've heard speak. And as you probably have figured it out, if you've been here, Robin's an amazing neuroscientist. He has infinite knowledge. He loves what he does. And so we can just work together. And even if, the monastics want to do some science projects, and I'm like, I don't really know how an EEG works. It's got a cool little cap, but that's about all I know, that it's okay because we do this collaboratively. And then we have other people who work with us, like James Glazer, who you'll see here, and he's like, well, how do we make the computational part of neurosciences easily accessible? And so he's creating tools to actually take all that messy EEG data, which I wouldn't know how to do anything, and actually make it so that the monks and nuns can eventually process their own data and come to their own conclusions as a team. And so it's just beautiful how much I have learned from these people, or how are we going to do it with thought and care? And I would say Robin and James are just too many examples of how the ETSL faculty have done that throughout the years. Another lesson, and now I see the word, and I'm like, oh no, maybe I can't pronounce it, is I can pronounce prasangika. Is that okay? Yeah, sweet. That's because of this science poster. So here you see Calden presenting his research poster to some of the other monastic scholars and other students. And their research project was about looking at sort of prasangita versus chitta-matra meditation and how it would affect the brain. And I remember coming up to their table, what research project are you going to do? And be like, okay, let's take a step back. There are several words there that I don't know what they are. Teach me. And so you learn so much through this process. I think the biggest impact here for me is that monastic scientists will change the world. I just want to give you a few examples. So this is my favorite picture. This is my best teaching moment. So we've already heard about these science posters getting printed in both Tibetan and English. The English was really for us so that we could help them. And the Tibetan posters were for the community and for what this is all about. And just seeing them there, they all came in, and you can see the English and their Tibetan posters were all together, and immediately the energy in the room was so beautiful, so positive. And you can see, maybe you see Dawa, who's walking behind. He's got this big smile. I mean, he has spent years coming up with thousands of new words with the translation team for science. These posters were not possible without him. And that this is just one manifestation of that, one of many manifestations, and one of many manifestations of His Holiness's vision. This is supposed to be a 100-year project. It will take 100 years in many ways, but it's gone faster than we could have possibly imagined. I think the other big impact is this is not just about the monastics who take these classes. It is about the Tibetan community and about the scientists who will rise in the future. And I love this. So this is here at the temple, which we'll have an opportunity to go to later today. And they were presenting their science posters. And I love just seeing the school children and the young monastics coming up and that sense of wonder and that realization, these are Tibetan scientists. I can be a Tibetan scientist, right? That's what it's all about. That's what we all want as educators. And so I think that that's making a difference. And then finally, I will say that one of the most amazing things is getting to work with these particular individuals. So Chayang, who's just told us a beautiful story, has not told you she is actually with a large team of people, but is leading the funding, building, architectural plans, and everything else of a science and meditation center at her nunnery. And in part, that is to have a space for women to come and learn about CBCT, learn about science, learn about wellness. And so this is how all this manifests, not just within science, but within a whole community. And I think that that's a beautiful aspect of that. So with that, I will finally say, because Tondev's got the sign, that monastic science has changed me so much, but I will leave you with monastic science has changed my family too. So now I'm going to cry. Look, that's you. This is my son. This is his birthday, which he spent at the Drepung Science and Meditation Center several years ago. And all of these nurturing moments, so for those of you who know CBCT and the nurturing moment, it's a life of nurturing moments to be part of ETSI. And that's been true for me, and that's been true for my family. And I think my kids appreciate, they hear it all the time, but they're seeing it in action to live a life of compassion and caring, because we can all learn and grow and support each other. Thank you.
Yeah, we have some of our guests who has to leave. So I would request, people who are at the back or who are already here, maybe move towards the front, because we have a camera that's facing the audience and it doesn't look, even though the auditorium is full, it looks empty on our live transmission. So, yeah. So previously we had a difficulty with our tech. The tech is back. But again, after hearing from all the presenters, I don't know how much, how interesting the presentation would be, but we will still continue. So we'll play the ETSI video now.
Traditions of Tibet for the
So while we're figuring out the tech again, maybe I'll request the panelists to come on stage.
For centuries, Tibetan monastic scholars have sought to understand the profound nature of the mind, the cause of suffering, and the path to genuine happiness. In our time, His Holiness the Dalai Lama has called for a bold meeting of worlds, bringing the rigor of modern science into dialogue with the contemplative traditions of Tibet for the flourishing of humanity. Answering the call, the Emory-Tibet Science Initiative has built a living bridge between timeless contemplative wisdom and the methods of modern scientific inquiry. Over the past 18 years, ETSI has developed a comprehensive 6-year monastic science curriculum and successfully implemented it in the great Tibetan monasteries and nunneries in India. This represents a historic transformation in Tibetan monastic education, preparing a new generation of monastic scientists who unite deep contemplative training with scientific knowledge. Their perspectives are opening new avenues in neuroscience, meditation research, and the study of human flourishing, contributing to Emory's Compassion Shift initiative to advance a global culture of compassion. Now, with the ETSI digital learning platform, this achievement can scale to a new level. Designed as a bilingual resource in Tibetan and English, the platform extends the research of scientific education to monasteries and nunneries in even the most remote regions, while also serving as a bridge to global scholars, educators, and practitioners. In addition, ETSI is making a historic contribution to the Tibetan language itself, expanding its lexicon with thousands of new scientific terms. This ensures that modern science can be fully expressed in Tibetan, sustaining both the language and the living dialogue between science and spirituality for generations to come. As His Holiness has written, science and spirituality have the potential to come closer than ever before, embarking on a shared endeavor to help humanity meet the challenges of our time. The Emory-Tibet Science Initiative and its bilingual digital learning platform are advancing this very endeavor, scaling a historic curriculum across cultures and languages, joining heart and mind, science and wisdom for the well-being of all.
Thank you, everyone. So after this wonderful presentation on impact, so now we have a wonderful panel here who will be talking about how we can sustain this science education movement within the monasteries. So for this, first of all, I want to welcome His Eminence Geshe Lobsang Samdela. His Eminence Lobsang Samde is the 6th abbot of Namgyal Monastery, and the monastery has been assisting His Holiness Dalai Lama since the 16th century in public religious ceremony, supporting the welfare of Tibet, and providing a non-sectarian space for study and meditation. Prior to that, Geshe Samdela served as the 82nd abbot of Jibung Loseling Monastery, one of the foremost centers of Tibetan Buddhist scholarship. He has played an important role in integrating modern science into the monastic curriculum, and served on the governing body of Gelug International Foundation, which oversees the Geshe Haramba examination and supports educational programs and academic forums. During this tenure at Jibung Loseling Monastery, the monastery renewed its Memorandum of Understanding with Emory University in November 2023, marking 25 years of Emory-Tibet partnership. And we have everybody has heard about Ari, and I'll still introduce Ari, even though he has already spoken yesterday. Ari is a teaching professor at Emory University, where he has taught in the Department of Biology, the Institute of Liberal Arts, and the Center for Ethics for more than 3 decades. He has earned his PhD in biochemistry from the University of Washington and is one of the founders of Emory-Tibet Science Initiative. He has taught Tibetan monastics in India and at Emory University for the last 15 years. He's also the co-author of, with Yongzhong Kunjo, The Enlightened Gene, which chronicles the story of ETSI. He's currently working on the book with historian Tim Rogers on memory from the molecular to the historical. So I welcome all the panelists for this panel discussion. So I want to start, in this panel we are examining how we sustain collaboration between monastic institutions, educators, and scientific communities can foster critical inquiries, mutual understanding, and compassionate approaches to addressing contemporary global challenges. So in this, so I've kind of structured this into, initially we'll have one question that I'll pose to all the panelists here. So I'll begin with this quote that's already in the program, where His Holiness states in his book, The Universe in the Single Atom, "I believe that spirituality and science are different but complementary investigative approaches with the same greater goal of seeking the truth. In this, there's much each may learn from each other, and together they may contribute to expanding the horizon of human knowledge and wisdom. Moreover, through a dialogue between the two disciplines, I hope both science and spirituality may develop to be a better service to the needs and well-being of humanity." Sorry. So with that quote, I think maybe I'll start with Khenpo. My question here is, His Holiness here speaks about science and spirituality as complementary paths to truth. In your own experience, what has the complementarity looked like in practice? And then we'll.
다 창말라 잠지됐을
Happy greetings to all. I will talk in Tibetan and it will be translated to English. My English is not that good. I studied for many years but didn't learn well.
아니 다 세력이 위터네 대화에 추구하래
As using both science and Buddhism try to search happiness, especially on a scientific world, especially the physical well-being can be found using science. On the other hand, if you are looking for the inner happiness, there is more ways to find inner peace using spirituality or Buddhism. In 1999, I finished my Dharam degree, and the Tibetan Library started the first science workshops in the south, but I wasn't able to go because I was in the Jume monastery for my tantric study. The science workshop I started for the first time in 1999 in the monastery because of His Holiness encouragement and vision. But in the 2002 or 3, I was so excited to learn science, but was in the administration for the Geluk examination, so I wasn't able to join the science workshops. After that duty, I started learning science.
네 이제 교육 주제에 도담바 로숨 제외 제라니 니동아 로랑아
In 2005, I was the discipliner master in the Losling. In that year, His Holiness encouraged to have these science workshops in Losling, in Mungkot, Losling as well. So we have this first science workshop, Science Meets Dharma, and we have students like Geshe Lab examples, Sonan Chimpe. They are the first student in the Mongkot. In the Gandhin Shertse and the Chanse, and the Depoloslin and Goma, I worked as a Science Meets Dharma coordinator. We have invited some European scientists, science teachers to, during that time when I was working as the coordinator, I got the opportunity to work with them. I was convinced learning science is a great opportunity and it's a wonderful thing. I know that theories of mind was not explicitly explained in the science, but especially brain science and the neuroscience is very elaborately explained in the modern science, but mental theories are not explained in the science, but there in the Buddhism it is explained well. So during that time I told them that Buddhism and neuroscience, especially theories about neuroscience or brain can be encouraged, combined to learn. We studied in the monasteries. We learned neuroscience and biology. And also we explained the theories of mind we have in Buddhism to the Western scientists and professors as well. So I think this exchange has a mutual benefit to both the parties, and eventually this science.
So I guess part of the wisdom of His Holiness, it's hard for us to see immediately, but was that when you bring these two deep methodologies together, magic will happen much deeper than, not to demean all these wonderful science Buddhist collaborations, but when you bring people together, like I said yesterday or whenever that was, all good things come from community, right? You see certain kinds of magic that are much deeper than science and ethics. I'll give you two quick examples. When the first cohort of Tenzin Gyatso scholars were at Emory, 20, sometime this century, we had them, my wife and my family had them over for Thanksgiving. And I guess that was the first time they'd been to a kind of Thanksgiving meal like that. And Nawang Norbu, who's at Sarah J, I think. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it here today, but we were going around saying, you know, like you do at Thanksgiving, saying, what are you thankful for? And he said, you know, I wish we could have a meeting like this with the Tibetans and the Chinese, have a Thanksgiving together. And from that thought, he started that organization at Emory. Like all American universities, there's many Chinese people, and all they'd heard is the propaganda about Tibet, and all the Tibetans had heard is the propaganda about the Chinese. And at Emory, they started this kind of, how to do a little bit underground Tibet-Chinese initiative, collaboration. And it goes on till this day. Some 15 years later, there's students that get together, Chinese and Tibetan students get together, and they lift weights, and they play basketball, and they talk about the meaning of life. Amazing, huh? It went, initially when it started, it went viral in the Tibetan community because there'd never been anything like that. One more quick thing. Well, of course, as Shayon can talk about, when the Tenzin Gyatso scholars are at Emory, everybody's wondering, what, you know, especially at the beginning, who are those people? And they kind of are like magnets, spiritual, social, intellectual magnets for the students. So informally, many of the students were coming to me, can I work with them? Can I work with the monks and nuns? And gradually over time, there's a very formal structure now where there's peer-led education. The students totally grew on their own, peer educators that you apply to become somebody who has the honor to work with the monastics, and they work with them and they have lunch with them, and they actually take that course for credit. They become peer mentors. So that kind of stuff really has nothing to do with science or Buddhism. It just has to do with goodness.
Thank you, Ari, Nicole, or Venerable Chair.
Okay, so what I most thinking is how grateful to this collaboration, you know, Buddhism and science. I don't have idea that much before 2017. I was really very rigid, can I say, from the mind science set. You know, science is earlier I shared is that misconception about science is I was one of them. So I truly understood it very well. So just blaming on science without not knowing it. So that's, I think, most of us have. You know, in many ways we just blame, not just blame and judge not knowing what it really is, like. So, but later, learning through learning science, as I told, is a really great, profound, like a method to investigate like material things. How can we change those to use human need? So that's linked really like close to Buddhism. In the Buddhism we have like really systematic logic system to investigate the mind. And also there's like thousands antidote, how to apply to this negative emotion, to mainly teach us to how to, cultivate those positive thought in us, within us. And then science is teaching how to take care of the body, really. How to find the comfort. Use material things to make your life easier and more comfort. So His Holiness always taught us, educate mind and heart, that we can also translate educate to body and mind. So I thought a couple of times how to educate for the body and heart. So that is science is teaching. So if we combine these two traditions, then it's really the very, very great things. It's a real gold. If someone is considering the gold is a jewel, so it's a jewel. So, and not only that, so we, one of the perspective, I think main motivation of a practitioner is we're creating the motivation, many ways we call bodhicitta mind. From the morning we have to set up the motivation, I'm spending my life for others benefit, creating this kind of motivation, which we call bodhicitta mind. So in real action, how we can all mother sentient beings. So it's very clear taught in the Buddhism to try to read out, all the source of the suffering is negative emotion. So we cannot free other sentient beings from the suffering just praying. So themselves have to put their self into practice and to cultivate those like antidote of the negative afflictions. So those technique, if we can brought into the academic science, then everybody can access for these techniques. So that's I see the beauty of the science. How important that monastic really take initiate and role to learn science and do science. So that's why, especially this conference, when we receive the email, there's conference, I'm joining. Even my exam and everything is coming close. I was thinking a little bit whether am I join or not join. And then second thought, it's important to have to join. This kind. So that is what I'm thinking. How contemplative science can, can make many of the antidote to globally usage.
Thank you, Venerable. Nicole, do you want to add, or we can move on? Yeah. So yeah. So next, I will have kind of individual spotlight. So I'll be asking question for each of the panelists here. So first, His Eminence, you have led the most prominent monasteries in Tibetan Buddhism and witnessed the renewal of Emory-Tibet Memorandum of Understanding, marking 25 years of partnership. From a monastic leadership perspective, what has been the most significant transformation in the monasteries, how the monasteries view science knowledge and scientific knowledge, and what institutional challenges still remain?
다 단다 송만나 신기 티워디 nenga thambo shiwchire
This is a really important question in the monasteries. The science education in the monastery, and earlier, those who are interested can learn science, but in the latter, in 2018, when I was about of the monastery, the science education was implemented into the Gelug exam. So everyone who participate in the Gelug exam need to take science education. So for Gelug exam, among the 6 years, for the first 2 years, need to take 2 years of science education, and before joining the Gelug exam, in the monastery exams, they need to learn science for 4 years. And because His Holiness's encouragement and a request, the implementation of science education in monastic education has become easier. There are some challenges, but since His Holiness' encouragement and blessings has become much easier, I think His Holiness is one of the leader or the inventor of including modern science education in the science. And Emory, at the moment, from Emory, through Emory, we have each qualified science teachers at the monasteries. And at the moment, since the nunneries joined the science program later, at the moment we don't have women science teachers at the nunneries, but it's still challenging to find the women science teachers for the nunneries. Also when we are looking for some qualified science teachers like with master's degree. Also, those who want to spend much time in the monastery, they may need to have a really great discipline of not smoking or drinking. So it's really difficult to find those qualified teachers. And also for the nunneries, for myself, the nunneries cannot afford to hire science teachers. And for many years, I've personally helped the nunnery with the salary for the science teachers and the monasteries as well. There are really great opportunities for the monks and nuns to learn science. At the moment, we have monks and nuns who have participated in the science program earlier. They are taking the initiative of administration as well, teaching science to their fellow monks. These are due to the great vision of His Holiness, and it's happening. One now firstly joined the monastery in 79. When His Holiness encouraged them to learn science, learn English, there is an obstacle or a challenge from the monastics. Is saying that if they learn English, the monks or the nuns or the monks will leave and go to other countries. So, and one time, Leader Buchi visited, he encouraged, and we have 4 classes of learning science. And the later we have, at the Losaling, we have class up to 10, and the other monasteries have their schools where they learn English as well. At the moment, we we have all the monasteries, the major monasteries have science centers, and they need to take science, 6-year science education in the monastery. They are doing great, and these are due to the great vision of His Holiness and Emory Science Initiative and the Geshe Lobsang, and we have hundreds of professors, science teachers come to the monastery to teach. With this work and vision, I think it will go on for the next centuries or two, and this can be sustained in the monastic education. So. At the moment, it is really beneficial to sustain in the monastery. There are some challenges, but at the moment I was appointed as the board of the Namja monastery. I was busy at the monastery because we have some debate on at the monastery, so I wasn't able to join yesterday. But today I came here to talk. At the moment, you all gathered here is trying to envision or trying to work on the great vision of His Holiness, and I would like to extend my gratitude for the works that you are doing. I'm also a member of the Dalai Lama Trust, Gandem Pota, and I was so fortunate and it's my great pleasure to join this conference today. Thank you.
So the next question I have for Dr. Ari. So as one of the ETSI's co-founder and someone who has taught...
Nicole hasn't got to say anything yet. You should ask her a question. She hasn't said anything.
Okay, yeah, I'll start with Nicole. Yeah, Nicole, you joined ETSI in 2017, teaching introductory biology, and now you co-lead the ETSI research training program, right? So how has the approach to science training of monastics evolved over that time? And what does genuine research participation look like for monastic scholars? I know you have shared some of, like the monastics doing the posters and some progress that we have made, but going forward, what does the monastic scholars participating in research really looks like?
So when ETSI started, there was no curriculum, lots of words that there was no Tibetan word for, and that all had to start from the ground up. And much of it started with content, like delivering content through a lot of activities and engagement. But actually, Geshe Lakdor at the fireside chat said that he read a book about cricket, but then Geshe Lobsang put him on the pitch and suddenly he had to play cricket, and those are two different things. And in science, those are two very different things, right? That having that foundational content is important, but ultimately science is a process of doing science. And so this transition of bringing in sort of the research skills, I think is really transforming not only the world of science, but also, when Raghuva gets into a classroom, and when others monastics are getting into a classroom to teach, they'll have done it, and they might be able to put it into relationship to science that they've done. And I think that this is a huge shift in our approach. It has challenges in terms of sustainability, that we're at the very beginning of this project, but I think that they're really seeing that process of doing, which allows you to integrate all that knowledge into action. And this conference is about action.
Thank you, Nicole. So if I may just follow up from your own researches on ecology and host-microbe relationship. I think Rapala shared about, the selflessness once we found those biomes. So have any conversations with monastic scholars shifted how you think about your own scientific questions?
Yeah, in some ways, the intersection of neuroscience and Buddhist scholarship has been easier in some ways. There's just been some easy things to understand, like what are the impacts of meditation, what's actually going on during dream yoga. For me personally, I think it's all the little conversations that happen in ETSI. Right? There's the stuff that happens in the classroom, there's the stuff that makes it on the science poster, but it's these little conversations where you're walking to go get tea, or hopefully sampa cake. I love sampa cake. And you start to have a conversation about interdependence, and you explain what you do, and you realize that the research I do is focused on animals and how they form beneficial partnerships with bacteria. Right, so actually my whole research program is about cooperation and just completely parallels some of the conversations we've had about compassion, right? That compassion, as Rob beautifully pointed out, it affects the person who's receiving the care, but it affects the giver just as much. And the science tells us that, and Buddhist wisdom tells us that. And I now sort of think about my research, and I see that, when an insect picks up a bacteria that's going to help it digest food or whatever, it affects the bacteria just as much as the insect, which changes their whole evolutionary trajectory. It changes everything that will happen going forward in those lineages. And so I'm constantly starting to see those connections and feel maybe more grounded in the foundational biology that I do.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nicole. So Ari, can I... Is it okay if I ask you a question now?
Sure.
I know, you have taught for the last 15 years, and I know you have shared this yesterday also. Like, how does, working with the monastics shape your own understanding of science and teaching?
Yeah, I just quickly wanted to say, we could have, instead of having this whole session, we could have just had Shoyan stand up here for 5 minutes, because she is like, that video we saw this morning from Rob with the flower blooming, right? When I first met Shoyan, she was like a little mouse at Emory. She didn't say anything, and now she's a lion. So I don't know if I need to say anything else. She kind of sums up what happens when you do what we've done.
Thank you. I also felt the same thing. I've been involved with the monastic program for last probably more than 20 years. And when I see the monastics presenting and eloquently speaking about their experience, that is the testament, right? About the impact of this program. So then moving to, since you directed towards Venerable Choyang, so now I'll ask Venerable Choyang. And Ari asked me, we were chatting during the lunch, and he said, whenever they go to, report about ETSI to His Holiness Dalai Lama, he always asks, what about the nuns? That's the question that he always asks. So, my question to Venerable Choyang La was so what unique perspective do nuns bring to science education that may differ from the broader monastic tradition?
That is a big question. Maybe I do need some mind read. Mind reading.
Mind reading.
Okay. So one, I always thinking that so if nuns get more science education and take the role in my doing the science, I'm not sure, but I believe that from one of His Holiness speech, His Holiness always saying that, we got the first love from our mother. And, woman is more like they have more flavor to concern others' suffering. So if they came up like more non-scientists, then they can play a major role to fill the gap, ethic in science. So that is what I'm always thinking. And the one thing, through listening yesterday's presentation about sea learning, sea. So if I'm not wrong, most of the facilitator in the picture and the presenter are, it's not staying here, are a woman, right? Is it true in general? Yes. Okay. So through this, I was thinking, what I'm thinking before is not wrong. So that's my belief, that women, if nuns get more scientists, that can really play the role to bring ethic in science.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think since we are talking about sustainability, I think I think I asked this question before also, but maybe I want to ask this again. So what, to sustain the science education in the monasteries, maybe I'll start with His Eminence, what is the single biggest challenge to that sustainability? And what is something that gives you the most hope?
The Gombe nanglo la nyama ina kange chimbo chungo re.
There are big more challenges in the monastery earlier because new curriculum is included. So also for the monastery education itself, whole day there is curriculum or programs, activities whole day. So some new curriculum is included, there are some tensions or challenges. That's why we teach science classes after lunch from 12 to 2 p.m. Usually that time is the free time for the monks. So we usually use that leisure time to teach science. So usually in the monasteries they use from 6 a.m. till 11 p.m. to study and debate. So we have only one day off. That is in Mangut we have Monday off, and other places may have Tuesday. So we have only one day off in a week. So we usually teach. They usually take afternoon nap. So we use this their nap time or leisure time to teach science. So the belt or the discipliner masters okayed this initiative. So in the south, it's really hot during the summer or later. We have science classes in the afternoon as well as during the evening and prayer sessions as well. This was implemented when I became the abbot of Losel Monastery. These are some of the monastery science curriculum, and initially we don't have science textbooks. At the moment, we have really great science textbooks. And in the initial stage, we don't have textbooks, but when the Western scientists or science teachers come to teach, we have a translator in the class. They teach, and at the moment, these days we have a really great resource teaching science in Tibetan language as well. So as I've mentioned before, if we can provide the science of a mind or to the inner way of seeking happiness to other science teachers, that will be really great and beneficial. And my teacher not only taught me Buddhist texts, but also scientific concept as well. He really cares for other people. And later, my teacher, in around 2015, he was sick. When he was diagnosis in the hospital, he was diagnosed with the cancer. He knew English really well. The doctor asked me to come out, and he explained all his the cancer diagnosis to me, and he told me that he has only 3 months, and if that is not operated, only 3 months were left. I wasn't able to tell him because he has a really small heart, so I wasn't able to tell him the diagnosis directly. So I told him, you need to talk. You need to. And my teacher asked me, "Did they say I have cancer?" And I told him, and my teacher told me, that is really great fortune. I have studied my Buddhist text for many years, and that's also fine. He just accepted what he was diagnosed. So we didn't do the operation, and we reported this to His Holiness, and His Holiness President daughters come to visit and check on him, and he took some, and he did some meditation, and he just stayed, and he did meditation, and he was still wanna request him to do the operation or the treatment. He said, that I'm 81 years old, and we don't need to do the operation, and you don't need to worry about me, and I will take the Tibetan medicine, and I will do my practices. And he took Tibetan medicine, stayed for 10 months. So the doctor said he has only 3 months left, but he took Tibetan medicine. He lived more, about 10 months. And so if we practice the Buddhism and practice more, there are some effect in the if this when he passed away, he stayed in the meditative state for 8 and 9 days. And we have another teacher who stayed in the meditative state or Tutam state for 18 days. Once there's no order. So in Buddhism, we talk about mind or subtle mind that kept the body from decomposing after death as well. So mind training is really important. So the Buddha have mentioned that. Do all the good, do not evil, and if you conquer your mind, that is the Buddha Dharma. If you do good things for others, others will have happiness, and if you do harm, there will be sufferings. So we don't want suffering, and we want happiness. So taking this in account, we with this in our mind to help others, including human and animals. This can bring happiness for others and as well. So the main cause of happiness is your own mind. So the monastics, the monks and nuns are learning science. They're improving the modern science, and also that this Buddhist tradition or Buddhist knowledge can be made available to others as well. There are a couple of religious traditions, including Tibetan, who don't accept the creator. So in these cases, we don't believe there is a self independent of the body. So in this case, the interdependent nature we have mentioned, interdependence, everything is interdependent on each other. We cannot say this house or this building is created by the God. So this need to be say that it depends on many people or many causes and conditions. So because of this facility, we got the chance to gather here and do the. So I think by learning science, we can improve Buddhism, and also learning Buddhism, we can improve science, and that collaboration can be beneficial for many people in accordance with the Holiness vision and the commitment. So we all want happiness, and since we all want happiness, we need to take this example to help others and not harming others. If we can do that, then we will have happiness.
Thank you, Your Eminence. So we have a few minutes left, so we would like to give the audience an opportunity to ask questions to our panelists. Please raise your hand if you have any questions.
Thank you very much for all of your presentations. My question is towards the scientists and the teachers from Emory who are present here today. So you've been involved with this program with the monks and nuns for many years. And I also grew up with a scientific worldview, and then later started to learn Buddhism as well. And really found that Buddhism has a very deep knowledge about the mind and consciousness. So I was very curious to see, with interacting with monks and nuns and with this science program in the monasteries and nunneries for many years, what have you learned or gained an insight about the mind and consciousness from the Buddhist perspective that may have helped your understanding of consciousness in a scientific realm?
Remember in my presentation, I said, I'm not a neuroscientist. I think for me, the main impact for me is I'm not a neuroscientist. That's why I love the natural world. I love it. And then I'm like, humans, they're messy. I just sort of ignored it because they're terrible study organisms and we're very complicated. And I think what I've realized through these conversations is there is so much wisdom in this Buddhist tradition that is telling us, that can tell us something about how the mind works and about consciousness, but also, I think, this idea that we actually have the capacity to affect our mind, that we're not just like, this is how I was born. I mean, as an evolutionary biologist, it's a lot about like the genes that you were born with and this is what you control. And I think this whole conversation and dialogue has let me see that we need to take some time to have perspective on who we are and how we're acting, how we're interacting with the work, how we pause and then respond. And so it's actually changed how I use my mind in many ways that I love, and I think has made me a wiser person. In terms of consciousness, I think Robin articulated several times that there's many things in science we probably will not know, and that we will need to turn to the Buddhist wisdom and all this knowledge here. That this is not about like, science is here to either prove or disprove everything that's in your 2,500 years of tradition, that there are things at the edges that are just not, that science is not going to figure out. Sometimes because it's just too complex, like there may be some basis of what the cells are doing and how that leads to consciousness. But also that maybe, part of consciousness and our construct of it has come from these spiritual traditions and doesn't have to be addressed by science, and that's okay.
Thank you. I think we are at time, and if anybody really wants to ask one question, we can allow one question. Otherwise, we'll wrap up. Okay, Venerable.
I come from Taiwan, but my English is poor, so I ask in Chinese first, and my partner will translate in English. Okay?
Okay.
我的问题是，这边有法师呢，你们过去并没有加上西方的这些科学的背景，一辈子用传统的佛法修持来对治烦恼。那今天加上了科学的理论以后，对于对治烦恼这方面有什么样的帮助以及好处？好。
Okay, in the past, monks and nuns did not study science. With the help of the Buddhism, you were able to work with and overcome affiliative emotions. Now that you are studying science, how has science helped you in dealing with affiliative emotions?
So I think it's more for the two venerables here.
Earlier in 1959, we come to India, and His Holiness built the first school in India. Earlier in Tibet, there isn't any modern schools. And also when His Holiness, His Holiness recently have mentioned that we need to be a 21st century monastics. So that encourages the monks and nuns to learn the modern science, modern educations. So the modern science is the face of modern education. So is science, they study, investigate the phenomenal things. So this kind of investigation, also the investigation in Tibetan Buddhism regarding the mind and consciousness can complement each other. So in the monastics earlier, we don't have English studies as well as science. So recently we included English and science education in the monastery. Also for those who take Gelug exam, they definitely need to read the Buddhist texts. Also, they need a grammar poetry, and history. There are 9 different subjects in the Tibetan studies to take exams in. In that 9 subject, science included. So this is because learning science is beneficial to become a 21st Buddhist. If knowing by this, it can be beneficial for the greater public.
So even not understand it wrong, so you are asking mainly how learning science can help to, meditate and to reduce the negative afflictions. So that I think, in terms of practicing the Dharma, we have 2 meditation, mindfulness meditation and analytical meditation. So I think science, the understanding of science will help to deeper understanding of analytical meditation. So as Ravka taught in his presentation, so the interdependence, when you learn about biology, when you meditate, how things, exist interdependently. So you can give many examples. So in Buddhism, when we meditate about analytical meditation, we are mainly thinking, counting of the suffering, right? From the Four Noble Truths, the first Four Noble Truths, the truth of suffering. When you think about suffering, you have to think the 8 number of suffering, 6 number of suffering, 3 number of suffering. So we don't have to think specifically on suffering. Also, you can. So one thing is, in terms of generating bodhicitta mind, there are 2 ways to generate bodhicitta mind. One is, thinking interdependence, and how other beings, grateful to you through interdependence. You are dependent on them. So science, help for this kind of meditating. The source, lots of resources to think how things exist through interdependence. So I think this, really help for to understanding the wisdom of emptiness, wisdom of seeing the true nature of the phenomena. So that's why, what we are thinking is science also can help deeper understand Buddhism and deeper, meditating about the true nature of the natural world. Yes.
So because of time, His Eminence has to leave he has another ceremony that he needs to attend for the conclusion. So I want to really profusely thank His Eminence Geshe Lobsang Samdela and Dr. Nicole, Venerable Anichaya, and Dr. Ari Eisen. And if you want to learn more about the stories of ETSI, Dr. Ari Eisen has written a book about ETSI's journeys, The Enlightened Gene. So I think he didn't have the opportunity to share a lot, so maybe he has a whole book about it, so you can read about that book. Yeah, so thank you everyone for your participation.
While the panelists leave, is it being here? It's on? You guys can go ahead. I know Labbit needs to go. Is this not on? Oh, now it's on. Okay, so thank you all so much, and thanks to the speakers and panelists for this session and throughout the day. I feel inspired to close the day with a quote that I personally loved from one of His Holiness the Dalai Lama's dearest friends, Archbishop Desmond Tutu. In his book, No Future Without Forgiveness, he writes, "We are made for togetherness. We are made to exist in a harmonious and delicate network of relationships. We are meant to complement one another. My humanity is bound up in yours, for we can only be human together." And I feel like this really beautifully captures the spirit that we explored here today. ETSI, C-Learning, and CBCT are both helping us to better understand both what it means to be human and how to be human together. So I'm looking forward to continuing unpacking all of this tomorrow. But we have a few very important announcements, so please bear with me for one more minute. So this evening, in just under an hour now, we invite you to join us for a poster presentation at the main temple courtyard from 5 to 6 p.m. The presentation will feature posters from C-Learning and CBCT affiliates, ETSI monastic research posters, and posters highlighting the Compassion Center's programs and research. My understanding is that right now there is tea available before we walk over, and it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to reach the courtyard. It's the same location that the Sikyong's oath ceremony was in, if you were attending that. So if you weren't when exiting this building, you just turn right, follow the path to the main gate, but don't exit the gate. Continue following the Kora path to the right, and you should reach the temple. But I think if we all gather, or anyone who wants to, outside of the front door around 5:40, groups can start going together. And those posters will conclude today's conference activities. Tomorrow, our first session will be here at 11 a.m., and will focus on reality and interdependence. And tea will be available starting at 10:30 for anyone arriving early. And lastly, we do have copies of Geshe-la's new book, Engage Compassion, available for you to pick up before you leave. Over here, Aman and Jillian will help hand them out. But due to limited print copies available here in India, we aren't sure if we have enough for everyone to take one. So I ask if you already have a copy to please wait until others are able to get one. And if we have extras, we're happy to give you one. Okay, thank you all.